See how we go. Okay, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I do think we had a couple of gentlemen scheduled. We're going to go to me. So welcome. My name is Bunny. A lot of you probably know me. I'm an admin of one of the Husqvarna Viking Facebook groups. Karen Jones is here from the West Coast, California. She's also an admin of what's the group called, Karen? Husqvarna Viking
Embroidery, sewing,
chat, something
like that.
terrible.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
You're in so much trouble. I also admin groups for Janome, a couple of other brands. Karen also admins one of the large Husqvarna Viking Premier Plus SewNet software groups. So welcome. Obviously, most of you got my email, which is very good. I apologize if some of it came off as a little bit terse. We do run into issues when we do these free classes with people sharing links with friends. And because our Zoom, it has a max of 100 people and we have a waiting list for this class, it was really important that those of you who registered early were able to get into class. That being said, moving forward, we have a series of classes scheduled. So if you have not registered for the other classes, we do recommend that you do so. There is every 2 weeks until sometime in July at that point. At that point, we are looking at getting through the Explorer plugin, the intro software, the free software, the intro software, a little bit into embroidery, and then a little bit into embroidery. Oh, somebody's got me on echo. So I'm gonna have to mute you in a second. If you are an Ultra owner and you wanna get into the Create module, those classes are coming. I can absolutely, positively, 100% guarantee you that they will not be free. We are looking at beta testing these classes. So you guys are here to learn from us, but also to be a little bit of guinea pigs for those of us that teach. So that being said, let's talk, and I'm going to roll over to the computer here. Let's talk a little bit about software and where we are tonight. We have, well, that's an interesting camera that I've never seen before show up on my computer. Oh, and it mirrored again on me. I love technology. I love technology. Okay, so that didn't work. It's backwards. Apologize. Tonight we're going to talk about Premier Plus 2, although a lot of the information we're going to cover will be applicable to Premier Plus as well. This software is available for both Husqvarna Viking as well as Pfaff. This is not the latest software. The latest software is the SewNet system, which is currently a subscription-based system. And we've got Scotland in the house too.
I know that. I'm like,
that's a lot. Yeah, you make me nervous when you show up from all over the world. And so we're not even going to, at this point, get into the current software. What we wanted to do was give everybody a base for the existing software. We know this last year has been completely crazy for all of us, shop owners and shop staff included. And so this is kind of where we are. No matter what machine you have, I know locally we invited all of our machine owners who have embroidery machines to join us. That started there, and then we opened this up to the rest of you. No price on future classes. Here's the thing: if we keep the classes, at 50 to 100 people, we can do classes for $5. But we want to see how things go. So I have made the commitment to do the current series as far as I can handle for free. Karen has been sort of sucked into this. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Volume. If you're struggling with volume, that is local to you. So we want to check your computer. Those kinds of things. Okay, so I am going to close the chat window so that Karen and Barbie are both answering chat. And let's get really just right into software. If you followed the link that I sent you, if you are a local customer of mine, or if you already have software that you got from your local dealer, you should have downloaded something that on your desktop links over to something like this. And Barbie will yell at me if I need to look at the chat. And so this is where the Premiere Plus 2 system loads. And it loads the entire system onto your computer, which is why it is important that we have really graphics intensive computers. And speaking of which, that's also why I'm going to move the microphone away from my computer, because it is not a happy computer tonight. It's whining a little bit at me. So with this system, this is everything. No matter what software you have, the whole shebang loads onto your computer. So it's there, and it's a big, huge resource hog. So even if you have the free version, it's there. And I didn't write it, so don't yell at me. But what we want to talk about first is really, truly the configure system. Now, there's some instructions, because Karen's going, Bunny, you're not following the instructions, and she's right. So I'm going to go kind of off a little bit, or I'm going to back up. How's that? Are we happier? We'll back up. With computers in general. And so this is going to be, I'm running a computer with Windows 7. We have some of you with Windows 8, with Windows 10. It's going to be a little bit different, but all of the pieces of Windows allow us to kind of visualize things here a little bit differently. I'm going to do that by going to the View tab on my computer, maybe. And as I hover over these different things, you can see that I get different imagery. Large icons is enormous. I can't really see it well. Extra large, excuse me. So I'm going to go to large icons, and you can see how we get these great big thumbnails. I am actually somebody who, in this particular folder, much prefers details. I don't know why. But this is going to become important to us as we go a little bit further. And somebody said to me, do we have notes? And the answer is yes. There is actually a downloadable outline of this. There is a small charge for that, mostly to offset Barbie at this point, and then Karen, and I will give you that link at the end of class. And the class video will be recorded and posted to YouTube. So if you don't make it through 2 hours of listening to me, I wouldn't make it through 2 hours of listening to me either. But within here, this gives us all of our shortcuts. Now, if you're a computer person, I apologize. I am going to kind of go with the basics. But whenever I see something on my computer screen that has this little arrow in the corner, that tells me that it's a shortcut. That means that whatever I'm looking for isn't in that location, but here's my direct link to get there. So user's guides or guides are literally just guides for the software. This is different than the manuals that are printed. Reference guides are different components for the different modules. So even if you have a system that does not have everything in it, you may have the reference guides for everything. Okay. Sample guides are really, really useful. So if you want to know what free stuff was included with my software, this is where I can see things like, you know, my quick font stitch guide. I get more information there. Okay. And then user information here as well. We're not going to explore these in detail, but I want you to know where they are. The Learning Center is online. So I'm actually going to, let's see, I don't know if this will share to you guys or not. We'll come back to Learning Center a little bit later. Karen and I talked about that the other day. Configure is where I really want to be, but I'll come back in a second. We're going to minimize that thing. Premiere Plus 2 embroidery takes me into the active program. The Purchase Center for Premiere Plus 2 is down because of the new software. So frankly, if you have that on your computer, you could always just right click and delete it, because You don't want to click on that. It won't get you anywhere. And then README, the README folder is basically where anything about the updates comes up. This is where information about the license for your software should come up. So if you haven't ever read that, go ahead in and read that. Okay. Do we have any questions about the thumbnails at this point? Okay. I don't have any questions as far as I know, so that's absolutely lovely. So now let's go to configure, which is where my brain went anyway. So configure is kind of our control panel for software. One of the first things that happens once you install your software is we go through a check installation. And if you click on check installation and you are connected to the internet, we can come in here and we can check. So here's 3 different options. Do I have the full embroidery system? Do I have intro? Do I have just a complimentary machine support? And I can select each of those and click on check. And if any of these are red, I have something that's missing, that hasn't been updated, that hasn't been downloaded, or isn't part of my software.
Bunny,
Yes, ma'am.
it would make more sense if you could click on the configure icon so we can see what it looks like.
I did.
It's not showing on the window
Okay.
or on my window.
Okay, no, thank you. So that's probably the share. I haven't done a whole lot of software via Zoom. So, okay, can we see it now?
That's better. Yes. Thank you.
So every time I change a piece with Zoom, I'm going to have to remember to change. So this is what happens when I click on configure. So I'm going to do this again. Check installation. Here's my different components or my different sort of options with software. And for me, because I have a dealer copy of software, I have all greens all across the board. You may not have all greens if you just have the free software.
Sorry, but again, your window isn't showing.
Okay, hang on. That one's a pop-up. It didn't show up again.
Bunny, I think if you do show your desktop, then you don't have to deal with showing each window.
It doesn't give me show my desktop. It just gives me screen share.
Oh, really? Because I thought the time I've done it, one of the options was to share the whole desktop.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, can we see this one?
Yes. Yes.
That disembodied voice is Melody, and she hosts our Floriani Software Club here at the store. She has done more software education remotely than I have. So, okay, let's do this a third time, because the third time's the charm. My embroidery system, all installed. My embroidery intro, all installed. My machine support, all installed. So just be aware that if you have the free program or just intro, some of these may not show up. And that doesn't mean that something's wrong. Now, if you have Ultra and you don't have all of these, that means that I need to close this. Okay. And I'm going to go back into screen share. And I'm going to screen share back over to configure. This is going to be fun. And I can go into Smart Update. Now you can only update your software if you've already registered it. If your software is new to you, Jan, and we have just installed it, you want to register and then activate. Any questions about kind of those pieces there? So if you bought the software, you've never touched it before, we want to make sure that you get through kind of the basics with this, which is make sure it's in your computer. Then make sure that Husqvarna Viking or FAF, SVP, being the larger company, knows that you have the software. And then we want to activate the software on your computer. Now you can activate the software on 2 computers. You can activate it on Mac and PC. We are working with PC tonight. If you are someone who works with both Mac and PC, you can activate 1 copy on a Mac and 1 copy on a PC. If you get a new computer, you need to deactivate from a computer before you can activate onto a new computer. But that's one of the things that's nice about P+2 is that I can continue to move it and I don't have that stinking little dongle to break or to lose. Okay. Machine communication, is a little bit funny on newer versions of Windows. So I generally recommend that you not utilize machine communication. Jan, who I talked to about this earlier today on the phone. I tend to prefer to work with things either wirelessly or via USB stick rather than the direct connection cables.
Can't you have it on 2 computers at one time?
You can have it on 2 computers at one time, yes. You have 2 activations. Backup and restore my settings. If you are somebody who is really funny about everything with your software and you get it exactly the way you want it to look with the exact layout that you want, and you've put all your thread information in and all of those things, this is your backup for the software settings. I don't ever do this because I never fits out any of my software so specifically that I need to back it up. I also know that just an aside, I talk a little bit quickly. If you need me to slow down or enunciate my words, remind me. And if you are on mute and you're on a computer, if you just touch and hold the space bar, you can talk to me and it'll unmute you momentarily. These bottom 2 icons, reset all modules, is what I call your get out of jail free card. Invariably, I have had over the years someone lose something on their screen, make something too big, just not be able to get it back to what it was before. And sometimes I've been the one who's done it. So if your screen looks funny and you don't know why, go back into configure and click on reset all modules. As we go further into software, I'm going to have everybody do this. I'm not going to ask you to do it right now, but you may want to, or you're going to need to as we go. Reset file association. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to share. Did that show up, Karen?
Yes, I see it.
That is super weird. That's a pop-up that didn't disappear. So resetting file associations means that this software wants to control certain files. So I can go in and reset everything for P+2. And that one didn't come up. So it looks like this.
There you go.
Okay. So these are all the different file formats out there that this software will read. So if you want to know what the machine will read, it's here. What I will mention is that the ART Bernina format, there are different versions of. There are some newer ART files that the machine will not read. Some of these, if you've never seen before, don't panic. The EVP3 and the EVP4 are related to the design library. Janome JEF is here, but there is a newer Janome format that is Jeff Plus. We cannot currently read Jeff Plus software. Okay, and with Brother Babylock Bernina, the PES file formats, some of the PES10 were not reading. I do not know if that has been modified yet, Karen.
On P2, you should be able to read most of them. Your machines can't, though. They can read the diamonds and the epics anyway, can read at least to PES6, possibly to PES9, but not higher than that.
Yeah, not 10.
Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. VP4 is going to be that file format that P+2 creates, that the Epic 2, and the Icon will all read. VP4 is the default save as for this software. And I like to save in VP4 because it still leaves my file malleable. And by that, I mean, if I was playing with a ball of bread dough and I haven't baked it yet, I can shape it and reshape it. VP4 is much more, adjustable. Once I put it into the oven, it really becomes a VP3. If you have not ever spent time with me, I talk in metaphor a lot. Okay, some of these file formats you have never seen before, and that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. If we talk about what file format do we prefer, what I recommend is assuming that the VP4 and the .evp3 and .evp4 are not available, because most of our aftermarket embroidery brands don't have those. VP3 is always my first choice for file format, no matter which Viking machine I have. VIP is my second choice, and PES, as long as it is a PES version 6 or newer, and sometimes it's hard to tell which is which, are what I prefer. And the reason for that is those file formats retain stitch count and color much better. I know that .HUS is a Husqvarna embroidery format, but it's really old. The same applies to the .DHV and .SHV. They're limited in stitch count and they're limited in color. So if you have a choice, use VP3, VIP, or PES. Okay. And let's see who is not muted. Okay, getting some background noise from somebody. So let's see if I can mute all of you. Okay, whoever it is, you guys caught it. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying to do 3 at once and that's not always working. So I can reassociate files right here. I know we went off track a little bit. That's pretty normal for me. If you have multiple software programs, and part of me wants to say, raise your hand if you have more than one software program. Most of us do. Some of us have all of the software programs. But this is the way to make sure that this software is controlling those file extensions. Embroidery software programs will fight for control of embroidery files. So it does sometimes help to allow one system to override. Or you may only want the Viking software to open the Viking files. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go back to this screen share. Okay. And so I have that same information, but each one of these other modules may have a different format. So if I go into Cross Stitcher, and I'm going to change the share.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
You have 2 questions. Hang on, it did not pop up with a different share. Can everybody see this screen? Nope.
I can see this. Yeah.
Oh, nope, here we go.
File associations. That's
Okay.
better.
This is Cross Stitcher, and the Cross Stitcher files are .krz. So that's a completely different animal. Don't panic, but just know that if you have Premiere Plus 2 Ultra, you have Cross Stitcher as a module, and that's what Cross Stitcher file formats are. Okay, we're going to go back and forth here. So each one of these different components of software has different file formats. If you just have the free stuff, you guys are along for the ride for some of these questions or some of these modules. Barbie said we have 2 questions.
Yes. Can we bring in a PES 10 into our software and convert it to
So
VP3?
PES 10, we were just talking about that, and Karen and I both are not 100% sure, but if you will send me an email, I will double check that for you. We will send everyone a link to tonight's class once it's posted on YouTube, and we will answer whatever questions we have, and I will read through all the chat when we're done. So here in configure, I'm hoping that this utilities tab has made most of the sense that we need. If I need help, I do have a help button on my screen. And it doesn't want to open it. So I don't have an app that will open whatever that help is. It opens in my internet browser. And that's probably because I have a different version of internet browser now on my computer. Okay. But our help is really, really useful. So if your help is working and mine is not, feel free to take a closer look at that. I apologize that mine is not behaving well. Okay. Also in configure, we can make some changes to the visuals here. So my appearance tab, this is just literally what it looks like on my computer screen. I can change the background color. This is pretty standard kind of Windows operation. I like to change the background color if I'm putting an embroidery onto a red shirt or onto a pink shirt. So you can go in and change that. Otherwise, I tend to default it to either white, or sometimes white is hard on the eyes if you're staring at it for a while. So sometimes I'll go to the light blue. The texture is just the visualization of the texture in the background. By changing my texture, it does not change my embroidery design. And that's important. There are some other software programs out there that when I change my fabric, it changes my embroidery design. This is not one of them. The grid is obviously the grid that we see here. If you make the grid the same color, ask me how I know this. If you make the grid the same color as your background, you will not see your grid. And I did that once. It was very amusing. So do keep that in mind. If maybe my grid is white and I go and change my background to white, it will disappear. And I have to admit, it took longer than I had really thought it should to figure out where that grid was. The screen layout, this is again a visualization. Whatever version of Windows you're sort of accustomed to working with, it just changes the way tabs appear a little bit. It's not a great big deal. That's just kind of how it looks. So you can go through and play with those, see which one you like. But right below that is actually important, this measurement. This measurement changes from computer to computer. So if you want things to appear on screen real size, it is important that you get a measuring tool that will show you clearly millimeters or inches. I use all my embroidery in millimeters. I just call it my embroidery map. And you want to measure this how it appears on your screen. Now, if you change your screen settings, you'll need to remeasure this. So this is a very important piece, and this has been around since at least 3D, possibly back to VIP. I had the DOS software, so I've been doing this for a few years. Below, if I'm putting applique into my more advanced functions, so this is primarily for our customers with Premiere Plus 2 Ultra, or anyone who added on what used to be called Stitch Editor and now is Modify module. And again, this is just a visual that I can put an applique fabric in and put that there. If I've made changes here, I want to make sure that I apply them, but don't click on apply yet because it will close my configure and I have a little bit more to show you. Also across the top are import. Import thread ranges is just a default. There are 9 default soft thread brands that the software brings in. I haven't found that it makes a huge difference, but if you work with one particular software, thread brand, you may want to.
Bunny, may I interject on this one?
Absolutely.
Okay, this has to go with DST file format, which is a commercial file format. If anyone's ever used it, you'll know that the color stops have no relation to the actual stitching. It's just color stops the first color will always be blue, and then it follows a specific order after that. Same order all the time, regardless. Okay, so the import thread range is relationship to DST files. So your blue will be a Robinson Anton blue. It makes no difference on a VP3 file that you should purchase. Those are going to be whatever the designer selected, regardless of what your import thread range is. So it's really only for DST, and for the most part, you can ignore it.
And that was pretty much where I was. Barbie is actually a commercial embroiderer. So I looked over at her and she just nodded her head. She uses DST all the time. Now, export gets a lot more complicated. So we're going to spend a little time here. Did I answer both questions? I feel like I only answered one of the two questions.
Well, the other was still about the PES 10.
PES 10. Okay, we're going to check on PES 10. Okay, so let's talk about exporting. So have any of you ever opened a design in your software and then it did weird things when it got to your machine? And I don't even have to look. I know the answer to that is yes. Because if you've ever worked with designs from Anita Good Design and you've had trouble and you've called and asked for customer support, you got Martha. And Martha is actually a friend of mine and a customer of mine. And so sometimes you ask Martha a question and Martha calls me, which is even funnier. She says, Bunny, open this design in your software and see what it does to it. So if I don't need to change an embroidery design, I will tell you that you are better off copying, pasting that embroidery design to a USB stick or uploading it into Sonet without opening it in software. And this is why right here, because as a default, this optimized for sewing means that our software is going to change our embroidery files. So sometimes I want it to, sometimes I don't. So if I just want the file the way it is, do yourself, the embroidery designers, Martha, the girls and boys over at OESD, do everybody a favor and just copy and paste that file onto your stick or upload it to Sonet, and you will not say those bad words. But if I need to do some editing, if I need to do some combining, then I need to take it into software. I can still make some command decisions on how the software impacts my design. So do I want it to optimize when I combine designs? Do I want it to make changes? Do I want it to remove overlap? Most of the time, the answer is yes, we want it to remove overlap. But I might come in here and remove the combine. Well, if I have more than one design, it's going to remove overlap. I can't undo those. Do I want it to color sort? I might want it to, I might not. I know in the interest of time, I want this to color sort. We now have what's called a smart color sort. It used to be at the very beginning of embroidery software. If I had an embroidery design of a black dog with a white eyeball and a black iris, and I did a color sort, I got a zombie dog because it combined both the blacks, stitched them first, and then it just gave me the white eyeball on top. We now have a smart color sort. There will be times where you say, why didn't it combine those colors? Because it is a smart color sort. There are things within the programming that will say you can't combine these colors even though they're the same color. So don't get mad at it. It's actually to prevent zombie dogs. Okay, optimize stitch length. That's entirely up to you. It just basically goes in and goes, that stitch is too short. We don't really need it. We're going to take this out. And then we have some options here for this optimization. Do I want it to take out stitches? So stitch removal. The software will go in and take out little teeny tiny stitches that you might not need. If I want it to take out just a couple of them, we're going to go to low. If I want it to be super sensitive, I'm going to go up to high. I tend to leave it on low. And then at what point is my stitch length really sort of problematic? If I want it to take out all the little teeny tiny stitches and everything bigger, if I want it to take out medium stitches, you know, or I only want it to really mess with things at the different lengths. And you see here, there's a note that the cutwork needle colors will not be affected by the stitch length optimizer. That's very important because the stitch length for using our cutwork needles, Karen, do you know how small they are? I think they're like 0.3 millimeters.
They're pretty small.
They're pretty small. But that's only if the design was created with the cutwork needle code in it. As far as I know right now, Husqvarna Viking Pfaff designs are the only ones with the cutwork needle codes that our machines read. But there are other brands that have slightly different cutwork needles. So without getting way too far into this, and tonight I know is boring, but this is going to give everybody a foundation for kind of what the software does. I'm not going to make any changes, so I'm just going to cancel that
Okay, before you go too far,
before I go too far.
someone's asking, and I'm not sure what in particular they're talking about. Is that something we have control over for the smart color sort? Do we have to set it for the stitches?
Okay, I'm going to read the chat because I want to see that question. I'm not going to read the chat because I don't have the chat here on screen.
Or if Elaine Perez could unmute herself?
Okay.
Barb and I've been doing the chats.
Okay, there was a question about optimized smart color sort and
And how do we set it for the stitches?
how
Okay,
does it
Karen
affect?
Karen
Okay,
just answered
Karen
that.
answered. Okay, yay. All right. So decoration. Again, this is going to apply more to the advanced software components, but I can plan on stitch placement for crystals, for other things that I can add. So the question is, do I want to create a center placement if I want to add a hotfix crystal? Do I want to create a line? So do I want kind of a little X or do I want a circle to put it into? Or do I want to remove if maybe a design has placement for decoration, but I don't want it to put all those stitches into my fabric? So that's really up to you. I have found there have been designs from companies like Dakota Collectibles that they'll give you little placements for where to sew on a button for embellishment. And we know now embellishment has gotten really big with companies like Kimberbell, and we get all these placement lines for places to put our buttons or places to put the fairy lights, if you're familiar with Kimberbell. So that's kind of what this decoration is referencing. Now, it will not necessarily remove decoration from a design that came from another company because they don't have all the same coding in them. So if I bring a Kimberbell design in, it's not going to know that all those little eyelets for the fairy lights are actually decoration. So just be aware that it may not always work. Hoop orientation. So do I automatically want to rotate my designs to fit a natural hoop orientation? And by natural, they mean the way it looks on the machine. And so we know most of our rectangular hoops are long. So when we look at the front of the machine, they look long top to bottom. But maybe I want to work with a design that's a name and it's wide. I may rotate my hoop on screen, but this is a default. Do I want to rotate my designs to my natural hoop position? That tends to go on for me automatically all the time. And then the automatically flip for felting needle designs. So again, you may or may not know about this particular process, but felting designs are a barbed needle. And so when we embroider them, we do it with our fabric upside down. But this is asking us if we want to turn it over as a default, just so we can see what the finished product will look like. So if you can think in reverse, you could undo that. Next component is splitting. So split is like taking a pair of scissors to a piece of paper. That's my best sort of comparison. Straight line means that I cut it with a paper cutter, just whoosh right down the center. With embroidery, straight line tends to be much more visible. So I'm going to tell you about which hoops this is in a second. Intelligent splits are a little bit better, but I don't have a lot of clearance on an intelligent split. I only have a 3 millimeter. I could get off this box. There we go. I only have a 3 millimeter, so that's still a pretty small split. But what the intelligent would do is if I took my scissors, I could kind of try and work around a shape. But again, I've got a very small tolerance. So when we talk about splitting designs, we talk about the majestic hoop for the Epic 2, the Icon, the Creative Vision, Creative Sensation Pro 2, for the Husqvarna Viking Designer Diamond Deluxe, Designer Diamond Royale, for the Brilliance 80, and the new Sapphire 85. Did I get them all, Karen?
I think you did a pretty dang good job.
Karen worked for a Viking sewing gallery in California. So she doesn't sell FOFs, but she knows FOFs. So that's where that split is. And then below that is alignment stitches for turntable hoops. Do I want the software to put that in?
Yes, you do.
Most of the time, yes, you do. There are occasions where I will turn it off, and that's when I'm working on fabrics that could potentially be marred by needle strikes. So some silks, some things that are satins, some very fine fabrics. Vinyl, yep, that was a good one too. Leathers and vinyls kind of qualify in the same category. So 90% of the time I leave the alignment stitches on. And I know that some of you have probably stitched something in a majestic hoop and said, it didn't line up right. And that's a whole other class, but we could do that. And then at the very bottom here, we have, do I want to append the name when I save a file, when I export a file? Do you want it to change the name? I always want to know that my design, once I've taken it into software, has gone through software. So then I can look at maybe the original from a designer, and I can look at what software did to it. So that's why they've started to, as a default, put this in. Now, you may not like the word exported. Maybe you want to say modified. You can change whatever verbiage you use here. Or I could take it all out, but I don't recommend it because then I know which is which. And then if I go to my last tab in configure, this is my connection to my Sewnet and my password, and this is trying to connect. I do have a Sewnet account, but somehow I'm not connected because my computers are being fitzy. But this is where, if I have a Wi-Fi enabled machine, I want to be sure and connect in here. Okay, and if you need to reset your password, that's nice and easy. And how do I want to identify this computer? Around here, we identify them by color. The computer I'm currently working on is a red laptop because I have more than one red laptop. I may want it to say, you know, Karen's computer or Barbie's computer. And then as far as my network activation, I can activate my software, you know, online via the network. And this is probably why the software wasn't working on the other computer earlier, because I probably didn't have that check marked. And now I'm going to have spin wheel of death. Yes, ma'am.
That's works if you have a group.
Okay.
You know, group class, and you get a special IP thing from
group license. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mine is not activating on my other computer, but I haven't called software support yet.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's configure. Anybody have any questions about this? Okay. I'm going to quick go back to import And so with the thread brands, we talked about those. And it specifically on the handout that I am now looking at says it uses initially for DST, which is why Karen spoke up. And I'm sure that there are probably a couple of things that I have not covered. Would you be correct in telling me that I have missed some things, Miss Karen?
I think you've done a pretty good job, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close configure, assuming that everybody is good with the basics that we have here. And we're going to see how far we get. We've gotten a lot further than I thought, and we've got like 2/3 of class here, which is pretty impressive. Invariably, when you offer a class for free, people no show on you. So I see your question there, Cheryl. Is SONET for Wi-Fi enabled machines only? The answer is no. SONET is available for all machines, and SONET is becoming a, what's the word I want? I'm gonna actually go over here too. SONET's becoming a learning tool as well for everybody. Why is that one not showing up? I love technology. So SONET exists, and if you wanted to upgrade to more advanced software, for you in particular, you would be working with the looking at upgrading to SONET. And Cheryl is a local customer to us. Oh my goodness, and Miss Donna's here. Y'all, it makes me nervous when everybody from all the admin groups show up. It's a little scary. So let's talk about the next piece of the software. And I've got to figure out how to show this to you guys in a share capability. Okay. So let's talk about beyond the sort of settings, because settings are boring. What does this baseline free piece mean to me? Because I have a machine that's a different brand and I don't know half of that stuff you've been talking about. So with the base system, we get the Explorer plugin. That's a free module that allows us to, I see your hand, that allows us to see embroidery designs on our computer. And for me, when the Explorer plugin first came out, and I believe it was with 60, Karen?
I'm sorry. I was typing in a response. I wasn't, could you repeat the question?
When did the Explorer plugin first come? Was it 60? I think it was 6.
I think it was 6.
I think it was 6. So in the past, if we wanted to see an embroidery design on our computer, we had to either buy software or we had to buy something called a thumbnailer or an iconizer is another term that we used. And that just meant we had to buy something else. And I will tell you that when I go into embroidery designs, and y'all are going to get to see some of the stuff on my computer. And just for the record, I have a lot of embroidery designs on my computer from all kinds of companies. So, you know, embroidery designs are lovely, but when I look at them and I have all these names, and sometimes they have numbers. So I apologize if I'm making you dizzy. Let's go up to Dakota Collectibles. Okay, if I go into a Dakota, I've got all these numbers, and the numbers mean boo to me. I don't know about you all, but I'm very visual. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Nope, you got to tell me. So these numbers and letters, and when we first had machine embroidery, I had a 1+ when I was 7. Shut up.
Yeah.
I was 7, I had a 1+. Actually, I was 19 when I had a 1+. And we had embroidery designs with names. It was like roses in basket, roses with bows. I can't tell you how many embroidery designs I now have that have roses. And if all of the titles started with roses, each name would be a paragraph long. So the companies had to do something. So this is what they did. They went to an alphanumeric code that meant something to them, but means very little to most of us. So here's what happens. If my Explorer plugin is installed correctly, and so when I did that check installation back in configure, when I go into each and every folder, and I need to reiterate this, each and every folder, I have to do this. Remember that view I talked about earlier? It's up here at the top of my screen. I can tell it I want to see icons, and then, oh my goodness, I can see what those letters and numbers meant. And so these are all the same design in different formats. And if I leave this folder and I come back into it, that control is still there. Okay, it doesn't iconize an OFM file and it doesn't iconize the PDF, but it's still, I can see what I've got. But if I go back to Dakota and I look at napkin corners, this is a class that I taught quite a number of years ago. And I went into Dakota in case you see a design that you need to have, they're all still available. And I can go to, okay, extra large icons. And now I can see what's there, and I can even see what's in the subfolders. And then if I go into the subfolder, I can't see it anymore because this folder is still on details. So large icons, extra large icons, and now I can see what's going on. And if I go back, this was my second folder, assembled larger than 5 by 7. But if I go into assembled 5 by 7, it's another folder. I need to tell it with each and every folder to show me the pictures. So there is not currently a global setting for the computer. Now, Karen might be able to tell me if P+2 has a global setting.
No,
P+,
it's a plugin. It depends on Windows. So
Yeah.
it's a Windows thing. It's a Windows thing. It's
And
not
for somebody who runs Mac and PC, this still applies. There's a version of this in Mac as well.
yeah, it's under Finder. It's not a plugin. It's part of
It
the
runs
Mac software. It's
Yep.
not a module like it is in Windows.
Yeah, so
That makes sense.
it does. And I have worked with the Mac software. I just don't use it as a default. Now, the other thing that happens with this, so maybe I should do what they tell me to do, and that is to go into my samples folder. So I'm going to go back to documents, and I'm going to go into Premiere Plus 2, and I have samples. And we are right now in my Premiere Plus Explorer. Doesn't that say 2? But okay. And my stitch file. And animals. Okay, so I've already been in this folder and I've already set it to my thumbnails. Now, the extra large are great for detail, but they're really hard to look at all of them at once. I apologize about that beep. Oh, we'll move that away from the microphone. So it's up to you. If I want to see everything in the folder, I may go to smaller icons so I can kind of see what's there. The more stuff there is, the smaller they need to be. Small icons goes back to just the P+ logo because I can't see it. Okay. But I can see more about my design as well as just seeing them.
Bunny, right click on a design.
I'm getting there.
Oh.
But the one I wanted to show you was when you do left click on it, I also can get some preview information over here on the right that varies a little bit with different versions of Windows. Okay, so I've seen some that don't have the preview pane, and I'm going to show you on the top ribbon toolbar. You see where I have the preview pane highlighted, so I can turn that off, and then I don't see it on the right. And this is Windows. I can put the preview pane on, and I can put the details pane on. So this is a Windows setting. This is not in our software. So if I turn them all off, I can also see more about my design by right-clicking on my design, and then I get a pop-up menu. And so I can open it. That will actually open it in the larger software program. I can print from here. And if I want, I can go ahead and print it to, probably shouldn't have done that. I can print it to, I have a PDF creator. So if I want to see, I want to print the design off, I want to show somebody what it looks like, and they don't have embroidery software, that's a really good option for me. And there we go. Please move this window away from the share application. Yeah, we're going to close that anyway. So if I go back to right and I go through all these different modules, open with, share with, send to. Okay, these are pretty standard Windows pieces, but I want to go down here to properties at the bottom. Can everybody see that? Or do I have
It's
to change?
just gray.
Okay, it's just gray. Let's see if I can change the share. Okay. We're going to share that one. Okay. So there's my properties for the design. So I get more information. I get the name and I can change the name here. I can change which software program it opens with. I can see exactly where it is. I can see how big it is. I can see when I first created it. I can go in and make files hidden and read only. Please don't do that on your embroidery files. Most of what we see here is pretty standard for Windows. Same with, I'm going to go to the far right, details. On details, I get things like the size of my design, and it gives me both millimeters and inches, so both metric and imperial. Had to pull that one out of my brain. Stitch count, number of, so all the information that I need about my design is here. Security information, that's computer. And then if I go into the embroidery tab, this is specific, obviously, to this Windows plugin, where I can see, again, that size, the number of colors, the stitch count, but I see it in relation to the design. So I see my colors. I see the brand that they were using to create that. So this is a really, really helpful screen for us. And if I scroll to the right, I'm going to talk about this, and I don't even know if the instructions tell us to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about this anyway. I can look at the number of stitches and the approximate length of thread that it needs. So when somebody says to me, how many embroidery designs will this spool of thread stitch out? It depends upon your design. But there have, I will totally admit, there have been occasions where I have been like at the very end of a spool of thread and I go, can I get that out of this? And on very, very rare occasions, like twice ever, I have literally measured to see how much thread was left. So we're talking about 3 yards of thread or less on a spool. I want to know if I can get that out of there. So this length is approximate. Do not expect it to be exact because our tensions are all a little bit different on our machines. Okay. Now, Karen, I know I'm missing something. So tell me what else I need to do here.
Not really. The security is nothing.
Security is nothing. Okay. So if I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm going to come back to my other share. This would be lovely if I could figure out how to make you guys see everything, but desktop is not an option. Okay, so I'm back to my design. If I'm back on my butterfly, I'm going to right click again. And then I'm going to open with, I'm going to actually go straight to Premiere Plus 2, sorry. And with Premiere Plus 2, this is where I can send it around so I can send it straight to my USB. I can send it over to Sonet if I'm logged into Sonet. I can copy my design. I can convert my design to picture. And then I want to talk about this convert here. This convert here will, for all of the machines, all of the software programs will convert any file over to a VP3 and a VP4, Karen, or just a VP3?
I know VP3
VP3.
That's not showing up.
Okay.
or another file, stitch file.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you only have the free software, I can convert it only over to the VP3. But if I have any of the purchased programs, I can actually convert to all of these different versions. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you say, oh, I can buy a Viking file and convert it over from my brother machine, if all you have is the free software, the answer to that is no. If I have a purchased software, I can convert. And then you'll notice that some of these things look the same as they did in configure. Do I want it to optimize for sewing? Remove overlap is grayed out because I only have one design. Color sort is there. Optimize stitch length. If I don't want to change the design, I may just want to take it from a PES over to a VP3. I'm going to uncheck all those things. Okay, so just something to kind of be aware of. Now, I'm going to close that. Hang on, I'm going to try this. Right click, send to convert. Okay. Can everybody still see my convert screen? Or did everything go kind of?
It's export.
No, okay. Hang on. This one?
Okay, that says convert, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I did was I went ahead in and I actually selected multiple designs. And now I'm going to convert them. We'll see how slow this computer goes. I'm going to change where I put the conversion. So when you convert, it says, okay, I made a photocopy. Where do you want me to file it? So in this case, I'm going to put it on the desktop so I remember to delete them later. And I picked 4 files. I also want the machine to, because I have jump stitch trim, so I want to automatically add trim commands. Now, the auto trim command works most of the time. There are some jump stitches that it may not cut. It may not add automatically. So something to keep in mind, if they're too short, the software, it's just a math problem. The software doesn't pick 100% of them up. And then if I'm somebody who works with a specific brand of thread primarily, I can convert these designs over to, well, this is a whole lot more thread options than I had before. So there are something like 11,000 plus threads that the software engineers have looked at their RBG values and imported them into the software. I am somebody who works with Floriani primarily and Robus and Anton Rayon. So Floriani Poly, Robus and Anton Rayon are my 2 favorite threads. So I'm going to go to Floriani Premium Poly 40 and I'm going to say okay. And what you'll see, because the sharing stopped, I'm going to share again. Hang on. Okay, let's share my desktop. Nope, but we're going to go back to my animals folder because I can get to my desktop from here. So here's my desktop. And
There's your butterfly.
only the one converted.
No, there's like 3 little butterflies. Look to the left, honey.
Oh yeah, there they are. They're on the next line. Sorry. I'm like, what? No, it didn't, but it did. So I was able to convert multiples at once. So what's the value of that? The value of that is that if I maybe got a collection somewhere, maybe I went to an event, maybe I went to the new Kimmerbell event that's upcoming with Janome that's called Family Game Night, which looks really cute, but we're not a Janome dealer, so we can't host one. But I know somebody who is. If you need to do it, I'll refer you to her. So I may only get those designs from that event in a Jeff format, and my machine doesn't read Jeff. So we can convert them, and we can convert them all at once, and we can add jump stitch trims all at once with some limitation. Okay. So does that, all of that make sense to everybody? I know it's a lot of information.
So that might work for the PES 10.
The question is, Barbie's asking, does that work for PES 10? And I don't have something that I know is a PES version 10. That's one of the catches with the PES file. It just says .pes. It doesn't tell me which version of PES. So I've got to actually go into the Brother software, export something, and then test it. So I will have answers for you all. Okay. Anybody overwhelmed yet? An hour into listening to me talk. I so apologize. And for those of you who don't know, I'm from Delaware, born and raised in this lovely state. And I sound like I'm from Delaware. It's this not New York, New Jersey, slightly nasally weird, but I do say water instead of water. Anyway. Okay. How many of you, and this is kind of a question, how far into this do we want to get? How many of you want your threads to be the threads that you have in your home? And you want your software to have your threads? Because y'all, I can't look at, Carol, you have all of the threads.
Me?
No, Carol, where's your
Carol, sorry.
Carol is a friend. And are you in your sewing room? Okay, I'm gonna spotlight Carol for a second. I want y'all to see Carol's sewing thread. I'm gonna stop my share. See all that thread? The woman's got enough thread. She got all the thread.
You can never have enough thread, Carol. It's fine.
She has all the thread. Anyway, we're gonna unspotlight you, Carol. But I do like to, this is what happens when you're a regular around here, or semi-irregular. I see you, Miss Beth. You get, let's see, how do I unspotlight you? We're gonna make me the spotlight. There we go. Replace the spotlight. Back to me. There we go. So okay, let's talk about thread cache. Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Can you talk about thread cache?
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Yep. Let's
it up?
make you.
All righty, hold on.
Okay. We are gonna make you the host.
Let's see here. Can you see my screen?
Nope. Hang on.
All righty, hold on.
You're gonna have to share your screen. I do believe. We're loving this left coast, right coast thing happening.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you
there
see
we
my
go.
screen now? Okay, thread cache is a separate module and it's way down the bottom left of my screen.
Mhm.
And it looks like 3 little spools of thread. Open her up. And my PC takes a while, so I'm sorry. Okay, this is what the opening screen looks like. There's my thread ranges, my thread database, my thread stock.
Hey, Karen.
Can you read me?
Nope. All we got is the background. You're having the same problem I did. When you bring up another, you're gonna have to change your share.
Oh yeah, I haven't brought up anything else yet. Oh, another, gotcha.
That's what I've been doing.
Oh yeah, okay, there we go. Gotcha. Okay, my thread cache. manufacture, I primarily use Isacord. I also use Robinson Anton, and why I don't have more in here, I can't remember. I use a Mac mostly, so, you know, there we go. To add one, and look at all these. My choices, let's put in, let's see, Robinson Anton. And all those sub ones. And I could put it over here. These are the ones I have. Does that make sense? Okay. So
So those are everything you've already put into your thread.
these are ones I've already put in. My thread database. My threads over here are show some Robinson Anton ones. These are the ones I actually have.
So you have actually
Isacord.
gone through every spool of thread that you have and clicked them over.
No, oh my God, no. Yeah, I have, on my Mac, I've got several hundred. I probably have as many as Carol does, if not more.
And if
Yeah,
you
I-
have little people around, and not by little people, I mean like early teenagers that you can get to sit still long enough in front of your computer, this is a great thing to do with them. Give them a box of thread and say, here, find these and click on this, and it's on the computer.
Pay them with pizza and they'll be fine.
Exactly.
Okay,
Doesn't-
so say I want to add some colors. My threads, let's do something weird. Sulky, these are all the sulky metallics. And I want to put them over in my threads. I can click on one. It gives me a preview, gives me the number, gives me the name, that it's metallic, the weight. I can click this arrow and it will come in at the bottom.
Okay, Karen,
if you-
somebody
yes.
said once she was done all that, she couldn't get it to save.
I'm sorry?
Somebody asked, I saw the chat pop up, she couldn't get it to save after she did all this. So what's the trick to making sure that these changes stay?
It should save automatic. I don't know why it wouldn't.
Okay, so young lady, if you will send me a note, just reply to the class reminder email, and I will see if I can look into if there's any problems. The other thing would be to make sure that your softwares are all updated.
Yeah. If I happen to know the number of the thread, say I'm adding, I've got the number on the spool. Let me find one. Okay. I have here a Mocha Cream Robinson Anton with the number 22475. And there it is. And I'll put that over there. And it will come in at the bottom. Lots of fun. You can, if you choose, then rearrange them by, say, colors or color number. If I want to move up my Robinson or the Mocha Cream up to, I'm just going to put it up by a couple. There. And there I am.
Okay.
So you add on those and don't do all of yours at once because you'll go crazy, and hire your local teenager. Then to see what you actually have, are your in stock or here. It gives you the Robinson Anton rayon. It's 40 weight. I have one spool. The size, if I want to say I have 2 spools, I can put that in. 20, I do not have 20 spools of anything.
I think I do. There's a couple. but they're for the store.
Oh, come on now. Here we go. Or I can use the quick. So that's kind of basically it. Now you want to go shopping? You can print out your list. You can upload it to your phone, you know, to take with you. Your email address got to be signed in. And it will, yeah, it's not been recognized. Okay, I changed my email address. Oh, that's why that won't. And then you go to your phone and you type in thread cash at whatever, premierplusembroidery.com, and you download. And so that's what it is. Or you could just print it out.
So now I'm gonna ask, because I don't use this. Remember to
A
keep it
lot of people
updated, right?
don't.
I don't keep it updated. I mean, I don't do it. So, and I just buy by color. And I will tell everybody that I have way more thread than Carol did. Personally, way more thread than Carol did.
Another, if
We're
it's
back.
kind of handy for shopping, or in the software, if you don't like what the digitizer used, say it's a brand you don't use, say it's Mettler, a very good brand, but you have Robinson Anton, you want to see what that design will look like in Robinson Anton, you can do a color tone, or if you want to, and it will convert to the Robinson Anton, or you could tell it to convert to the threads that you have in stock that you've input, with sometimes some fun results that you may not choose to use. But it's, so that's what it is.
Okie dokie. So I need Karen to give me back control of my terrible typing. I'm glad I sent that to just you and not the whole world. You are currently set as host, young lady. So I need you to find me and make me a host. So here's where we are as far as information goes. We wanted those of you who, nope, I'm still not a host, but that's okay. You can listen to me talk. We wanted to give you some basics on the settings for the computer. We love doing this. And this is why we can't charge this right now, because we're like, which button is that? And every time we do something, it's a little bit different. So we wanted to give you some basic foundation for sort of the underpinnings of software. We wanted to let you see what the Explorer plugin did. And then if Miss Karen can figure out how to convert this back to me.
Didn't it?
No.
I see you. Well, I don't see you. I see the pictures.
Okay. Can you click on, if you highlight, hover over me and click on the 3 dots and then click on make host? Is there a drop down that comes up?
Yeah, I just see your,
That's okay. You're gonna get to do this instead of me. But somebody did just ask, is there a way to remove the threads from the thread stock? So can you show that?
oh yeah, I can, yeah.
Okay, so you'll need to share again.
Oh, darn.
Don't we love technology? And for those of you who are watching, Miss Karen, behind her is a zoomed in design in, I'm assuming, the Create module.
It is indeed.
Okay.
I have a background window that's just, you know.
That's fine.
Well, that's why okay, let's get rid of this one. See right there?
Nope, all we've got is the hoop. You're gonna have,
Now, let's see. Where's screen sharing news?
there we go. Okay. So how do we take one of those metallic threads that you just added?
Okay, I highlighted that top white thread.
Mm-hmm.
And then I click down here at the bottom, see the paper with the X on, says delete thread.
Okie dokie. That
Do you
sounds
see
good.
that?
I do.
All right, now let's delete. Do I want to, it cannot be reversed? Yeah, okay. You can put it back in, but there's no undo button. So I'd have to start from scratch, but that's okay.
Okay. And then
And
what
there-
I was gonna show, Karen, is because you have the different versions of software, can you convert yours over to the free Premiere Plus
I can do that.
window?
Yeah.
Because there is one more piece
Oops.
that comes with the free software. So we're going to convert over there. And this will make a lot of sense for those of you who are currently looking at everything that we're doing and you don't have any visual reference for some of the things that we talked about, like the hoop rotation, whether it was natural or rotated. And if you downloaded this software, but
Okay, this is the free version.
is it the, yep, okay, that looks
Yes.
like the, and so depending upon which software you have, at the top you can see where it says Premiere Plus 2 embroidery free. Okay, and this is what your screen looks like. We get a visualization of the hoop, what it looks like on our machine. And Karen has brought up the Designer Epic 2.
Yours won't say it's for sale. Not for sale.
So we have, because Karen works for a gallery, and then mine here would also say not for sale. Karen and I oddly both pre-ordered Epic 2s in the same color way.
Sitting right next to me.
Barbie makes noises, but she's over here wearing a hot pink sweatshirt. So I don't know what she's talking about. So we both got the Vivid Sunset, which is the pink and orange Epic 2. And as she's sort of scrolling through the different things, you can drop down here for different machines. So no matter which machine you have, and no matter which brand, most of the brands are represented. And most of the hoops are represented. And I will share with you.
What's the biggest brother right now? The Luminaire?
Yep.
All right. So it will show you the hoops that are available. It's not the hoops that you have. There's a difference.
And we didn't used to have all this information in previous versions of software. I worked for a dealer for 15 years. And one day while I was at work, and this is about 10 years ago, I got a phone call from somebody at Viking. We'll just go with Viking because the names of companies have changed. And she asked me if I had a list of all of the hoops that were available for the machines, because I sell, at the time we sold 3 different brands. We sold Vikings, and we sold Brothers, and we sold Genomes. So I did some researching and some photocopying and some website linking, and that was part of how we got all of the hoops in. Now, is there a way, Karen, to convert the thread range from previous versions of software? I know this has come up.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
If you had your thread ranges in, say, 5D, is there a way to export that and bring it over?
You should be able to in, let me
I know we're jumping around a
go
little.
into figure.
We don't see it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I'm learning this too. Okay, go into configure. Back up my settings. Oops.
Hi, we see you.
I know, I didn't want you to see me.
And so the question about us and computers, and Karen and I sat down and we got together the other day to kind of go over this, and it sort of worked in one way. But Karen and I do both teach software in our respective stores or in our respective states even. But when you add Zoom in, it changes adds a whole nother dynamic to this. So
Yeah, you do it here.
that's
You could put it on your a USB stick, bring it over, and then restore your settings, and it should be there.
okay, that's in P+. So could she back up her settings from a previous version of software and bring it over? When you go to restore?
No, just the threads.
Yeah, but if you go to restore. So Sue, the answer is maybe. We'd have to honestly test it to see if it was
Yeah.
it's possible. Okay, so can you go back to that hoop for me, please, young lady? Maybe.
Which one do you want?
Just the the baseline.
Is that it? There it is. Okay.
My typing is terrible. So for our free software, this is where we can bring in an embroidery design, and we would open an embroidery design. Okay, so file and open, or import, whichever. Well, insert, sorry, not import, insert. And she's probably just as bad as I am. She's probably got designs all over the place. But she's gonna do the right thing and go into the right folder. So this part of this process is just Windows. It's knowing where you put files on your computer, and when you're completely overwhelmed by where did I put stuff on the computer, here's what I tell everybody. Your computer is, and I apologize if some of you are super computer savvy, but your computer is basically like an office building. So if you need to go to, that particular office, you need to know what floor the office is on, and you need to know what suite number, and then you may have to get past the receptionist to know what office door, and maybe you're looking for a file, then you need to know which filing cabinet, which file drawer, which folder, and which subfolder. So that's what your computer is. It's just a whole series of locations, and sometimes each of those locations are inside a bigger location. And I found for a lot of people that helps to kind of visualize or think about what the computer is and where do we find all that stuff. You are welcome to steal that one. It really does, it helps. And I've been using that since 3D, which was when I started teaching.
Can I mention to everyone that doesn't have Ultra? See all these icons down below?
You may or may not.
Can you see it?
I can't because I have all the controls up, and I don't know.
Okay. Let me know.
Okay. Barbie said
these are all the modules that are available if you have Ultra. Now, I am in the free version, but they still light up. That doesn't mean you can use them. It's just what's available.
Except for under accessories. We should have quick font.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about being able to make fonts.
Can you see that?
Nope. You got to share the next tab.
This isn't convenient. There we go.
So if I or somebody else has ever said to you, basically, you've got sort of limitless fonts, that's where you access that particular piece. Is it now called Font Create? Used to be called Quick Font. This piece of the software will take any true type font, or I think now open type font, that's on your computer. So what you're seeing in Karen's list may not be on your computer. You may have more or less fonts, and it does a quick conversion, a quick digitizing to turn it into an embroidery font. Now, here's my word of warning with this process. And for people who just have the free software, if she goes back a tab, the other back, if I don't have any more advanced software, I'm going to make sure that I pick this for use on my embroidery machine, because the Husqvarna Viking and Pfaff machines will read this file if I save it to my USB. But here's what happens. This font system has not been modified, edited, verified. So if you use Quick Font, please, 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 please double check whatever the font is on some practice before you stitch it onto whatever your final piece is. And I say this because I have a customer who did this. And so she picked a font. She told it she wanted to use it on her machine or her software, and went next. And then told it what type font she wanted. So Satin Stitch, fills, all of those kinds of things. The software does tend to give you a recommended output size range. Override that with caution. And then joining point, if it's a block font, I'm going to baseline it. If it's a script font, I want nearest point. If it's a true script, I want everything to connect. I'm going to tell it that I want it to be continuous. And you can kind of play with this. We've got all these different functions. So we can fill it with a border and you get a preview. And if I'm happy with that, I click on next. And so the software goes through this conversion. And now I've got this font, and you think, okay, I have this great font. Until you stitch it, it is not a great font. You want to double check it. And the reason that I warn people is I have someone, she wanted something from Disney on a granddaughter's sweatshirt. So she bought an applique because she didn't want to do any copyright infringement. And she bought a Tinkerbell applique, and she test stitched Tink, and the T came out well, and the I came out well, and the N came out well, and she stopped. And then she said, that was great. I'm not going to finish it. And she put the sweatshirt into the hoop. And let me tell you that the K ate her sweatshirt. So they are not always 100%. And I don't want you to ruin something because Bunny and Karen said that I can make my own font. You can, but you need to double check it. All of the fonts that come in software or that we purchase have been edited, verified, confirmed that they're working correctly. Okay, so that's one of the pieces that does work for all of our software.
Yeah, Quick Font, some fonts work pretty well and others don't. And test, like Bunny said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you do me a favor and bring that hoop screen back up though?
I can do that.
I wasn't quite done. And we're going to be done at 9 o'clock. 2 hours is a lot. And at 9, what's the difference for the file type on Quick Font between embroidery system and machine? The difference is that your machine reads a different file format. So if I need it to go straight to my machine, you want to tell it machine. If I have advanced software, so anything beyond the free software, I can tell it software, and then I can use it as a keyboard lettering on my computer. And then it'll be a file that I'll take over because I will save or export that finished file. But I just want you to see what we can do with the free software as far as it appears on screen here. Okay, so if we open a design again, because right now everything is grayed out.
And is there a difference between intro and free software?
Oh, absolutely. There's a difference between the free software and intro. And so this is a good time as Karen goes to open another file for us, for me to talk about the software classes. These are building. So each class will build on the previous class. And if you only registered for tonight, in 2 weeks, we will start with the intro system. So then if you have intro or embroidery extra or ultra, you'll want to be in the next class in 2 weeks. But if that class is full, we will post the video link. And so we're going to keep building. And as we get further and further, people who have more advanced software will be staying with us. Those of you who don't have more advanced software are welcome to still come along for the ride to see what we're doing. If you're like, I can't make it that night, the recordings will be available. And so you can see what more advanced software does for you in a different format than necessarily going into a store and having a demo. Because I realize in a lot of places that's a different experience than somebody actually showing you. So Karen, can you bring up a second design as well?
Okay.
And yes, we'll email the
I
link.
got my Airedale. I like dogs. If I should go to open, can you see this one now, or is it still the Airedale?
No, we can see it.
Okay. I'm going to remember I had the Airedale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I really like Bassett's. It's going to save changes. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, no, not. The Airedale's gone away, but I still want him. So to open up more than one design, you use the insert command. Because open will only let you open one design at a time. Insert, you can open up any number of designs. Okay, does that make sense?
And now that Karen has designs on screen, you can see how all those controls at the top highlighted. So this is where we can do a little tiny bit of modification in the free system. Okay, so if we just kind of look across the top, we've got things like copy and paste. Those are pretty standard for Windows. We've got this, and when we copy something, you see in the bottom right-hand corner, the clipboard shows up. And so I've copied that. And then did you paste? But we also can go to the Bassett and duplicate it.
Okay, when I pasted it, the Airedale, or when I copied it, the Airedale was, and pasted, it was right on top of each other and you could only see one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But it's still there.
Okay.
Okay, I've highlighted the Bassett because that's what I want to do something with. If I duplicate it, see how it comes down a little below?
So it gives us a little bit of an offset.
So you can see what you did.
Now, if I want to be sure that those Bassets don't look exactly like those two Bassets, I can touch on the, yeah, God, that's amazing that you've read my mind. We did not plan that. So the little triangle on the left and the triangle on the top will mirror image them top to bottom, left to right. Okay. And why would you use copy and paste versus duplicate? It's sometimes just sort of preference. Duplicate is a newer control. I might duplicate it, 3 times. I haven't found
Okay,
one that I use over the other.
you could paste. And I can paste. Do my heart's desire. I could duplicate too. This little guy.
Okay, so rotation.
Can go anywhere I want.
So with the free software, we can rotate via this rotation control, which is the circle on the right-hand side. And then the other piece that Karen just grabbed in the center of the design, that moves. And that's your
Center of
point.
rotation.
Yep, that's your point of rotation. So sometimes when people have a hard time understanding that, what I always say is if you stick a piece of paper on a bulletin board with a thumbtack and you spin that piece of paper around, that is your thumbtack. And in this case, the thumbtack is off of the dog. So it does allow us a little more control over that rotation. It gets a little confusing.
You can have fun with it.
And then when you click on something else, that point of rotation snaps back to the center of the previous design. You don't have to move it back. So now she goes back to that previous dog. See, it's back in the center.
Is there any reason why you would want to use copy paste?
I just answered that. Yeah. And I'm like, meh, copy paste versus duplicate is a little weird. Now, if we wanted to select all of the Bassets and we go to the next sort of grouping, we can do a box select or select all or select none. So if we select all, let's see what happens when we select all. Okay, do you see how all those are grabbed at once? Or if we do a box select.
If you can tell, you have orange squares, that's the whole thing. I don't know if you can see on my screen well enough, but you can see that each individual one is selected, but it's faded. Does that mean, okay?
Okay, so thank you. We appreciate when you guys answer questions that we may not have answers to right off the top of our heads. You can copy and paste multiple things. You can only duplicate a single, is what somebody else had mentioned. So we can box select and grab grouping, but not everything on screen. Okay, so that's kind of where our selection tools are. And then if we select nobody, it all goes away. The next piece over, previous design and next design, I always call that like my tab button on my keyboard, how I can get through the different designs. It used to be where we didn't have this control in older software, and you might have designs that were on top of one another, and it was really hard to navigate. And so sometimes you'd have to drag one off the screen to get to the one underneath of it. So the next design, previous design allows you to go through all of those. Now, you'll see that the resize is grayed out because we do not have a true resize capability in the free software. I can rescale a design in my software. And I would do that by grabbing one of the corners of the design and just dragging it out. But it does not change my stitch count. If I want to be able to resize with a stitch count change, I need more advanced software. Okay, so you see he got bigger, but the stitches didn't change. Now, why would you want to do that? There are some designs that we call bulletproof. So anybody ever stitched the design and it was so stinking dense that by the end your needle was, it was popping. You get that pop noise. The needle's struggling to get through. So there are designs that I will actually rescale. I'll just kind of spread them out a little bit and give them the stitches a little bit more room to breathe. I also, the converse is true. I've had some designs, I've stitched them and they just didn't fill in well. I could see gaps below them.
And so I will actually rescale it down and kind of squish all those stitches back together. So just because you don't have resize does not mean that the rescale function is not useful. Now, some of our machines have rescale and resize on them, and some of them only have rescale on them. So that's also something to be aware of. Past that, we also have the ability to maybe select all of those Bassets again. So if we box select the Bassets.
Right there. Okay, box select Bassets.
Okay, and we can combine them into one design.
Oh, hold on.
Rescale is definitely different, Marjorie. Okay, so we're going to combine the selected designs, but if we look to the right, you see all the colors. So now I've got lots and lots and lots of color changes, but I can color sort these 4 Bassets so that I only have to put each color in once. And that looks like a whole lot better, changing colors 5 times as opposed to 20. Okay, we showed you the main rotation control, but we're moving from left to right. We can rotate 45 degrees as well. So if you're not really comfortable with the mouse or clicking and dragging, you can use that. Modify design allows you to, change the size by specific numbers and the rotation angle by specific numbers. But keep in mind that is not a resize, it's a rescale. Okay. If we have, what are you, oh, and you can unproportion them. So if I want my Bassets to be, are we making them short and fat or tall and skinny?
Oh.
We're making them look more like
long and skinny.
they look more like corgis now, which is what I have. I have a corgi, so they look more like corgis.
Yeah.
It's a what's a Basset corgi mix? A corset? I think they call them corsets.
No.
I lost my list of colors on the
And
design.
undo is your friend. It's either, you can either, I'm right clicking to get this property box or this control box. I can, or I could do up here. So lots of choices.
Okay.
I can cut and paste and delete and do all sorts of stuff there too.
And then a couple more controls that we have here are alignment. And so alignment allows us to select multiple designs or even a single design and position them centered. Or what was the other alignment that we had? Okay, center and hoop.
Well, with this one, center and the hoop, let me get these guys out. So you can see, I'm going to box select these 3 guys. Now alignment, it's still,
No, that's the free. The free only
yeah,
one.
it's the free. The other ones have arranged vertically, horizontally, and yeah.
Okay. But the button below that is one of my get out of jail free buttons. I invariably will have things that I've moved off my screen, or maybe it's just outside of the hoop area. And you can tell that it's outside of the hoop area because the corners are round. When a design is inside the stitchable field, the corners will be square. And so if you go to the Airedales and the cat, you'll see that the corners are square. Okay, so you see they're inside the hoop. Now the Bassets, we can't move into the hoop the way they currently are, so we can change the hoop if we have a machine that will do that, or we can rotate the hoop. And then if we put everybody, just click on move into hoop, It'll bring them all into the hoop. They'll be on top of one another, but you know, that's what happens with cats and dogs, right? They just kind of sit all over each other. Okay, so those are our basics for the settings behind the software. A lot more about thread cache than I ever talk about. And what the free software will do for me. And the free piece is just really helpful for me to see what it looks like in a hoop. I know a lot of us are real visual, and so it's really helpful to see the hoop on the screen, to see where the connector is on the hoop. I'll also mention this is was a really good time to see that sometimes the spacing on the hoop is actually a little more offset. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to the fact that the center of the hoop is not the same as the center of the embroidery field. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody had a good underpinning and a good understanding of how they can see designs on their computers, how they can see what the design will look like, you know, before it gets to their machine. Design panel view. Okay, Miss Nancy, I'm gonna have to look at that. Oh,
People were saying they've lost their color list.
okay,
and
so
you can see, if you lost the design,
you
This
won't.
is what the stitches would, you know, this is really magnified.
Okay, so what Karen did, because there's some questions out there, Karen went from the home tab on her ribbon over to the view tab. Now there aren't any wizards in the free software, correct? They're there, but they're all grayed out. So if you have more advanced software, we'll talk about those in the future. And the view allows me to really get a better preview. Okay, and then can you go back home for me for a second? Okay, and select the dog. So just click on him. So if you did not have a design highlighted, a couple people asked this. If you don't have a design highlighted, there won't be any colors on the right-hand side. So if Karen clicks off into La La Land, see how all those colors go away. I'm thinking that's what was happening, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay.
Mhm.
Did that answer the question?
maybe.
Maybe. Okay, we'll see if that answered the question. So view, if we go back to view real quickly, because we are just about done. And I know that's a lot. It's a lot to talk about. So view lets us see the design in 3D view, 2D view, and realistic 3D.
Realistic gets rid of the grid.
Yeah, takes all the background, takes the hoop away, just lets you get a better. No, the free software is part of intro. So the way the software is built is everything that's in the first one is in everything subsequent. Everything that's in the next one is in that and everything subsequent. So the softwares go with free. Everything in free is in all the components. Then intro. Everything in
Yeah, let me get
intro is in the next couple. And then since Karen's help is probably working better than mine, can you go, oh, she just closed that one.
No, that's okay. I'm getting out of the free.
So in 2 weeks, we'll start to really talk a little bit more about what's in intro, pieces that are in embroidery, embroidery extra, and ultra.
So did you want to see help?
Yep, since my help wasn't working earlier, maybe your help is working.
Okay, help. I'll have to reshare that. Okay, I clicked help. And now you get.
Okay, so there's lots of information in help.
These are keyboard commands if you don't want to use your mouse. Sometimes it's easier. A lot of them are pretty standard, you know, the copy and paste, cut and paste are standard through a lot of Windows programs. Not all.
Okay, and not all of the things in help, not all of the topics in your help are applicable to all of the software programs.
And there's a search, so let me see, threads. And it will give me a list of topics related to threads. Does that?
I think it's weird that mine wouldn't work, but that's okay. Figure that out. Okay.
And yeah, already.
Okay.
Back there and
So,
share again.
so Karen left the free system and she went into Ultra.
This is Ultra again.
So you'll see that she has a lot more stuff up here. And we're going to talk about all of those stuffs as we go through the class series. Okay.
You want me to show you the intro? People were asking about that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk while she's sighing in her software. Let's talk real quickly about where we are as far as software goes right now as kind of an entity. The Premiere Plus 2 software has been phased out as an active purchase software. There are some exceptions to that, and those exceptions are if a shop still has Premiere Plus 2 software. You cannot at this point upgrade within the Premiere Plus 2 family. But before Cheryl makes bad noises at me, the new MySonet system exists. It currently is in a subscription format, which means that you subscribe, you pay a monthly fee. If you cancel your subscription, just like if you cancel your Netflix, it goes away. There is, however, this month coming Sonet in a boxed format, like most of you have purchased your software. And so in the boxed format or downloadable format, there is what we call an upgrade path, so that if you wanted to move out of intro into something more advanced, there is a way to do that. I do not have all the specifics on it yet. And if you are not a customer of ours, what I would recommend is that you give your dealer a hot minute to get the information, and that you look at what, let them know that you're interested in the possible upgrade path. If you want to see what the other components of software do, at this point within the Premiere Plus family, a lot of it will be similar in Sonet. Sonet will just have more pieces and it will behave a little bit differently. But we had committed to doing a series of P+2 software classes so that people didn't feel like they were completely left behind, if that makes sense. So we wanted you to kind of know what exists and know that your software is absolutely still supported. They always support the current version and one generation back. I will tell you that I can still navigate 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and Premiere Plus, and do upon occasion when called upon. If you do not have a local dealer, I would be happy to help you find a dealer that's closer to you. My goal is not to make you all my customers, as lovely as that concept sounds. I think it's very important that you support your local shops, because without our customers, none of us are still going to be here. Okay, so Karen is showing you on screen. This is the intro. There's a little bit more in here. You see we've got some more controls, we've got lettering. We're going to go in depth a little bit more into some of these controls next week. Not 2 weeks, sorry, in 2 weeks. So thank you guys for being here, ladies and gentlemen. I do very much appreciate it. And we realize that software is a difficult animal. A lot of shops really know machines and don't know software. Some shops know software incredibly well. I've had the software since it was in DOS. So, I've been around the software for a very long time. So we're happy to help, and we hope to see all of you back in 2 weeks. If you have not registered for the future classes, please do that because they are going to fill. I think 2 weeks may be full already. If you miss it, you can put yourself on the waiting list. We did call waiting list people today because we had some cancellations. And just the answer to, because I was asked why we didn't have more people, put more spaces into our Zoom. And the reality is, for me to increase my Zoom limit, it's going to cost me $3,000 a year. So if somebody out there wants to finance it, I'm good. I'll go to $3,000, the next level. But right now that's just not financially viable for us. And that's why we're putting videos up on YouTube. So, okie dokie. Thank you guys. I can't see you because we can't get me back on camera. Wait, maybe we can get me back on camera. Well, we can get me in little form back on camera. So, if you want to look at me, you can. So thank you guys for being here. It means a lot. We do appreciate feedback, both good and bad, things that you'd like us to do differently, things that didn't work for you. This is the first time we've done this much screen share. I'm going to see if I can get Melody to figure out how to make it show just whatever is on my desktop and be done with it. And thank you really to Karen and Barbie for being here. This was my idea and I just drug them along for the ride. So everybody have a great night. Those of us on the East Coast, we're going to sleep. Those of you around the world, I don't know what time it is, but thank you for getting up early or staying up late. And we'll see you soon. Okay? Have a good night, everybody. See you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, where did the bandages that you wanted me to take?
I'm sorry,
The cloth you wanted me to take?
right here. It's rubbing real bad. And this is just, it's cotton. It's disposable. What?
It's puffy.
It's, yeah, you'll give some padding. Just toss it away. Don't think about trying to wash it. I've got like 50 yards of this stuff. Don't recycle. I've got 50 yards. His tackling thing, made out of my
that
batting,
thing.
that is that. So it's not like I'm ever going to get, so take that and maybe change it every day, depending upon how gross it gets.